Vadis, chapter 16. Pachilo did not appear for some time, and Vinicius knew not at last what to think of his absence. In vain he repeated to himself that searching, if continued to a certain and successful issue, must be gradual. His blood and impulsive nature rebelled against the voice of judgment. To, to do nothing, to wait, to sit with folded arms, was so repulsive to him that he could not be reconciled to it in any way. To search the aisles of the city in the dark garb of a slave, through, through this alone, that is was useless, seemed to him merely a mask of his own inefficacy, and could give no satisfaction. His freedman, persons of experience whom he commanded to search independently, turned out 100 times less expert than Chilo. Meanwhile, there rose in him, besides his love for Ligia, the stubbornness of a player resolved to win. Vinicius had been always a person of this kind. From earliest youth he had accomplished what he desired with passionateness of one who does not understand failure or the need of yield something. For a time military discipline had put his self-will within bounds, but also it had engrafted into him the conviction that every command of his to subordinates must be fulfilled. This prolonged stay in the Orient among people pliant and inured to slavish obedience conferred in him the faith that for his I wish there were no limits. At present his vanity too was wounded painfully. There was, besides, in Lygia's opposition and resistance, and in her flight itself, which was to him incomprehensible, a kind of riddle. In trying to solve this riddle he racked his head terribly. He felt that Acte had told the truth, and that Lygia was not indifferent. But if this were true, why had she preferred wandering and misery to his love, his tenderness, and a residence in his splendid mansion? To this question he had found no answer, and arrived only at a kind of dim understanding that between him and Lygia, between their ideas, between the world which belonged to him and Petronius and the world of Lygia and Pomponia, there existed some sort of difference, some kind of misunderstanding as deep as an abyss, which nothing could fill up or make even. It seemed to him then that he must lose Lygia, and that at this thought he lost the remnant of balance which Petronius wished to preserve in him. There were moments in which he did not know whether he loved Lygia or hated her. He understood only that he must find her, and he would rather that the earth swallow her than that he should not see or possess her. By the power of imagination he saw her as clearly at times as she had been before his face. He recalled every word which he had spoken to her, every word which he had heard from her. He felt near. He felt her near, felt her on his bosom, in his arms, and then desire embraced him like a flame. He loved her and called to her. And when he thought that he was loved, that she might do with willingness all that he wished for her, sore and endless sorrow seized him, and a kind of deep tenderness flowed his heart like a mighty wave. But there were moments, too, in which he grew pale from rage and delight in thoughts of the humiliation and tortures which he will inflict on Lygia when he found her. He wanted only to have her, but to have her as trampled slave. At the same time he felt that if the choice were left to him, to be her slave or her in life again, he would rather be her slave. There were days in which he thought of the marks which the lash will leave on her rosy body, and at the same time he wanted to kiss those marks. It came to his head also that he would be happy if he could kill her. In this torture, torment, uncertainty, and suffering he lost health and even beauty. He became cruel and incomprehensive master, his slaves and even his freedmen approaching with trembling, and when punishment fell on them cautiously, punishments as merciless as undeserved. They began to hate him in secret, while he, feeling this and feeling his own isolation, took revenge all more on them. He restrained himself with Chilo alone, fearing lest he might cease his searches. The Greek, noting this, began to gain control of him and grew more and more exciting. At first he assured Vinicius that each visit that the affair will proceed easily and quickly. Now he began to discover difficulties, and without ceasing, it is true, to guarantee the undoubted success of the searches, he did not hide the fact that they must continue yet for a good while. At last he came, after long days of waiting, with a face so gloomy that the young man paled at sight of him, and springing up her burly strength to ask if she not among the Christians. She is, Lord, answered Chilo, but I found Glaucus among them. Of what are those speaking, and who is Glaucus? Thou hast forgotten, Lord, it seems, that old man with whom I journeyed from Naples to Rome, and whose defense I lost these two fingers, a loss which prevents me from writing. Robbers who bore away his wife and child stabbed him with a knife. I left him dying at an inn at Minturna, and bewailed him long. Alas, I have convinced myself that he is alive yet, and belongs in Rome to the Christian community. Vinicius, who could not understand what the question was, understood only Glaucus was becoming a hindrance to discovery of Lygia. Hence he suppressed his rising anger and said, if thou didst defend him, he shall be thankful and help thee. Ah, worthy tribune, even gods are not always grateful, and what must the case be with them? True, he should be thankful, but unhappily he is an old man, of a mind weak and darkened by age and disappointment, for which reason only is he not grateful, but, as I learn from his co-religionists, he accuses me of having conspired with the robbers, and says that I am the cause of his misfortunes, that is the recompense for my fingers. Scrandal! I am certain that it was as he says, replied Vinicius. Then thou knowest more than he does, Lord, for he only surmises that it was so, which, however, could not prevent him from summoning the Christians and from revenging himself on me cruelly. He will have done that undoubtedly, and others, with equal certainty, will have helped him. But fortunately, he does not know my name, and in the house of prayer where we met, he did not notice me. I, however, knew him at once, and at the first moment wished to throw myself on his neck. Wisdom, however, and the habit of thinking before every step which I intend to take, restrained me. Therefore, on issuing from the house of prayer, I inquired concerning him, and those who knew him declared that he was the man who had been betrayed by his comrade on the journey from Naples. Otherwise, I should not have known that he gives us such a story. How does this concern me? Tell me what thou sawest in the house of prayer. It does not concern thee, Lord, but it concerns me just as much as my life. Since I wish that my wisdom could survive me, I would rather renounce the reward which thou hast offered, than expose my life for the empty lucre, without which, as a true philosopher, shall be able to live and seek divine wisdom. But Vinicius approached him with an ominous countenance, and began in a surprised voice, who told thee that death will meet thee sooner at the hands of Glaucus than at mine? Whence knowest thou, dog, that I will not have thee buried right away in my garden? Chilo, who was a coward, looked at Vinicius, and in the twinkle of an eye understood that more unguarded were he was lost beyond redemption. I will search for her, Lord, I will find her, cried he hurriedly. Silence followed, during which we heard the quick breathing of Vinicius and the distant songs of slaves at work in the garden. Only after a while did the Greek resume his speech, when he noticed that the young patrician was somewhat pacified. Death passed me, but I looked on it with the calmness of Socrates. Socrates. No, Lord, I have not said that I refuse to search the maiden. I desire merely to tell thee that the search of her is connected now with great peril to me. When a time thou didst of that there was a certain Eurixius in the world, and though thou wert convinced by thine own eyes that the son of my father told the truth to thee, thou hast suspicious now that I have invented Glaucus. Ah, could that he were only a fiction, that I might go among the Christians with perfect safety, and I went some time since. I will give up for that poor old slave woman whom I bought 3 days since, to care for my advanced age and maimed conditions. But Glaucus is living, Lord, and if he had seen me once, thou wilt not have seen me again, and in that case who will find the maiden? Here he was silent again and began to dry his tears. But while Glaucus lived, continued he, how can I search for her? For I might meet him at any step, and if I meet him I shall perish, and my with me will cease all my searching. What art thou aiming at? What help is there? What dost thou wish to undertake? Inquired Vinicius. Aristotle teaches, Lord, that less things should be sacrificed for greater, and King Priam said frequently that old age was a grievous burden. Indeed, the burden of old age and misfortune weighs upon Glaucus this long time, so heavenly that death will be to him a benefit. For what is death, according to Seneca, but liberation? Play the fool with Petronius, not with me. Tell what thy desire is. If virtue is folly, may the gods permit to me a fool of all my life. I desire, Lord, to set aside Glaucus, for while he is living my life and searchings are in continual peril. Hire men to beat him to death with clubs, I will pay them. They will rob thee, Lord, and afterward make profit of the secret. There are as many ruffians in Rome as grains of sand in the arena. But thou wilt not believe how dear they are when an honest man needs to employ their villainy. No, worthy tribune, if I watch men watch the murderers in the act, they will tell, beyond doubt, who hired them, and then thou wilt have trouble. They will not point to me, for I shall not give them my name. Thou art doing ill not to trust in me, for setting aside my keenness. Remember that there is no question of two other things, of my life and the reward which thou hast promised me. How much dost thou need? 1,000 septinia, for turn attention to thee. I must find honest ruffians, honest ruffians, men who, when they have received earnest money, will not take it off without a trace. For good work there must be good pay. Something might be added, too, for my sake, to wipe away the tears which I shall shed out of pity for Glaucus. I take the gods to witness how I love him. If I receive 1,000 sestertia today, 2 days hence his soul will be in Hades. And then, if his soul preserves memory and gift of thought, he will know for the first time how I loved him. I will find people this very day, and tell them that for each day of the life of Glaucus I will hold 100 sestertia. I have, besides, a certain idea which seems to be infallible. Nisus promised him once more the desired sums, forbidding him to mention Glaucus again, but asked what other news he brought, where he had been all the time, what he had seen, and what he had discovered. But Chiro was not able to tell much. He had been in 2 more houses of prayer, and had observed each person carefully, especially women, but had not seen no one who resembled Lygia. The Christians, however, looked on him as one of their own sect, and since he redeemed the son of Euricius, they honored him as a man following the step of Christ. He learned from them also that the great lawgiver of theirs, a certain Paul of Tarsus, was in Rome, imprisoned because of charges preferred by the Jews, and with this man he had resolved to become acquainted. But most of all he was pleased by this, that the supreme priest of the whole sect, who had been Christ's disciple, and to whom Christ had confined government over the whole world of Christians, might arrive in Rome any moment. All the Christians desire evidently to see him and hear his teachings. Some great meetings will follow, at which he, Chilo, will be present. And what is more, since it is easy to hide in the crowd, he will take Vinicius to those meetings, and they will find Lygia certainly. If Glaucus were once set aside, it will not be connected even with the great danger. As to revenge, the Christians too will revenge, but in general they were peaceful people. Here Chilo began to relate with a certain surprise that he had never seen that they gave themselves up to debauchery, and that they poisoned wells of fountains, and they were enemies of the human race, worshipped an ass, or ate the flesh of children. No, he had seen nothing of that sort. Certainty, certainly, he will find among them even people who will hide away Glaucus for money, but their religion, as far as he knew, did not incite to crime. On the contrary, it enjoined forgiveness of offenses. Vinicius remembered what Pomponia had said to him at Actes, and in general he listened to Chilo's words with pleasure. Though his feeling for Lygia assumed at times the seeming of hatred, he felt a relief when he heard that religion which she and Pomponia confessed was neither criminal nor repulsive, but a species of undefined feeling rose in him that it was just the reverence for Christ, unknown and mysterious, which created the difference between himself and Lygia. Hence he began at once to fear that religion and to hate it.